David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. You know, a very wise man once said, don't stumble over what's behind you. Uh, And that's good advice. I mean, it's good advice in life, and it's good advice probably with the Bond franchise. So a little bit, right? No Time to Die, even though some of us keep talking about it because it's the most recent movie, it's a little bit in the rear view mirror. So this video is something very different, and it's a long time in coming. It's a long time in preparing, and here it is. We are talking about Bond 26. We have no idea what it's going to be named, who the bad guy is, the Bond girls, or the plot. We have our wish list, and certainly we don't even know who's going to be playing James Bond. It's too early. We've heard that from the Bond producers and others, but as Bond fans, it's really fun to speculate. And this one speculates on the style. What do I personally think in my years of experience? And you're like, David, is it about the years or it's the mileage? It's the mileage. That's what Indiana Jones said. Fine. My mileage of James Bond sartorial kit, I've actually curated a few pieces that if I was the costume designer, forbid, but if I was, what would I gravitate to? And thematically speaking, it would be around stylistically traditional. And I'm saying that for a slow way for a particular reason. I don't want high fashion, all right? And I don't want something that's too avant-garde. I want things that seem very style appropriate, basic, and Bond. Bond basics, essentially. But I'm going to be using a lot of Bond brands that are, yes, beyond Bond in the sense that you may have not have seen these pieces, but I think they would be perfect. Now, steady yourselves. Gird your loins. We've got to prepare yourself for the idea that I had to, as a quasi costume designer for this video only, don't panic, I had to think about who is my Bond actor because, you know, they obviously think about script and they think about the individual when they think about curating the pieces of clothing and wardrobe for Bond. So I had to go with my personal favorite, Henry Cavill. Like travel, pronounced Cavill, according to him. So Henry Cavill, I know that for some of you, it's a popular pick. It's a very commercial pick. He's very well known. Superman, Witcher, Mission Impossible, the list goes on. And for some of you, that's the very reason why you don't want him. He's too commercial. Some people even said he was a little bit wooden. I would fence with you and say, well, you know, that could be because he's not using his English accent. When he uses his English accent, his acting goes up. But I'm also a firm believer, sorry to say this, you do not need a Shakespearean actor to play James Bond. He should have an economy of words. He should be tough. He should be charming. He should walk into a room and captivate women and men and engage them and be charming. And also I want him to be a great ambassador to the Bond fans. And guess what? Henry Cavill ticks all those points. He just does. And by the way, some of you have even said, David, he's got the wrong body type for Bond. You're not going to fit him into any of the clothing, especially the suits. Well, I'll fence with you for a second. Take a look at this. This is posted for my wife. She'll appreciate this picture. But in a movie that goes a little bit back, he played kind of a god, demigod, and he had slimmed down, or he was slimmed down versus a Superman. So he can do different body types. And that's the slim, but obviously physically fit Henry Cavill that I think could play in Bond 26. But this is about clothing. It's not about choices. It's just how I got this into my head. And we're going to start with the basics. And literally, here are some of the basics. I'm wearing an Olibar Brown OBT, and they were good enough to send me a few pieces that we curated together just for this video. What would Bond wear? The OBT, you can see it in No Time to Die. Bond wears it, but it is very basic. I've worn it today with a pair of Uniqlo chinos. These are the least important thing because I needed something basic. But I think that Steve McQueen type look, that very basic look, could be Bond. It could be Bond when he's connecting in activity, but I think it could be Bond in his dressed down moments. There's nothing wrong with that. And well, I've tied it to the watch brand that I want, here goes another controversial thing. I have a feeling I'll get some comments for this, but it's the Omega. Now, this particular one is the Quantum of Solace Omega 42 millimeter Planet Ocean. Black face, simple. It's got a date on it. I like it because it's not too big. And even though Henry Cavill's a tall drink of water and bigger guy than me, certainly, I don't want him to go 45.5. I think that Omega will clearly make a new watch for the new Bond. But I want him to go back to the basics. I love my No Time to Die watch with the brown face. But I don't want that anymore. I've got that. I've got the titanium Milanese strap. It's interesting, brown face, cool, tropical, get it. I want it to go back to sort of the basics. Again, there's that theme. And speaking of basics, even his eyewear. And you don't get much more basic than Ray-Ban. Now, this was a pick that you may have seen before that I talked about. I think some classical aviators, some of the aviators that you see in Quantum of Solace, for example, and in Skyfall from Tom Ford are nice and basic. But for me, Ray-Ban, when you think aviator, you think Ray-Ban. And again, very traditional. You could use gold, you can use silver. You could take a look at these right here. They're not anything fancy other than basic Ray-Ban aviators. They're the mid-size ones. I did get the brown to clear gradient. Thank you, Wink Optics, for doing all this wonderful work for me. And Ray-Ban itself, I think, is a classic brand. And this is something that is going to be a constant theme. And that is the whole idea of not knowing exactly the time and place Bond 26 takes place. Like, wait a minute, how are we going to do that? What I mean by that is from a style standpoint, he could be in the 60s, he could be in the 80s, maybe not the 90s, but the 2000s for sure, current time. And with that, when you get some basic items like this that stand the test of the time, it's not going to date itself, which I think is so important for the fashion aspects. Now, lest you think sunglasses were the only curatorial pick when it comes to eyewear, you would be wrong because, of course, the good people at Wink Optics, who have been my key sunglass and eyeglass supplier probably for years, they're phenomenal. What do I love about them? The variety, the products, but ultimately it's the customer service. They're just incredibly communicative. So we talked, and one of the things that I really loved were these eyeglasses in Spiderhead. Now, Spiderhead film on Netflix with Chris Hemsworth, and it's kind of a quasi-pharmaceutical thriller brain bender of a film. It's got an okay ending, not a great ending, but it's a pretty decent film and a good flick to watch. More importantly, it has to do with like the pharmaceutical arena, which, yeah, I live in. So it was something that interested me. These eyeglasses right here, I found incredibly attractive. Now, here's a bit of an asterisk. Much to the chagrin of my wife, Danielle, I am not Chris Hemsworth, nor do I look anything like him. As a matter of fact, I don't look like Henry Cavill, nothing like him. Again, much to the chagrin of my wife, Danielle. So I did want to pick those glasses as the potential eyewear for Henry Cavill to wear, and they are Ray-Bans, okay? And I'm sticking with the brand. I'm keeping consistent with the brand, which we know that they do in the world of Bond. So I worked with Wink Optics to get these into my own prescription, and here they are on David Zaritsky. Now we've got a little bit of reflection from the window. Apologize for that. So I'll kind of move to the side here so you can see these. These are incredibly lightweight. What I loved about these is if you're kind of doing a little bit of a nod to the whole Superman theme, putting him in eyeglasses when he's doing work, or perhaps doing the whole, is it a trope at this point? Maybe it is. The whole trope of having eyeglasses that could actually be video. I think these would make a very interesting type of look, not just for James Bond to go into a situation, but to capture those moments. I could see this being kind of a quasi like video capture. So I think the other thing is it looks good with a t-shirt. It's very lightweight. It's almost got kind of a pseudo goggle type look to it. It's got no undercarriage here. I'm sure that's not the right term. This underframe is not here. So you just have the lens. It just has that top kind of crescent frame on the top. And of course, the details of the arms, very nice, very lightweight. But it still has that classic style. And you probably are realizing right now, I'm going classic style Bond. Very clean lines, nothing too avant-garde. And I think, although this can be called fashion, I think this still fits the bill. I really enjoy it. And I think it would be interesting to see this type of glasses on somebody else other than Chris Hemsworth. Why not Henry Cavill? I think it frames the face very well. How are these for me? I love them. I will use them in my everyday. I think I'm actually have a meeting next week where I'm going to pair them with a suit. I think they've got that clean look that you can wear with a suit. Would I wear it as a pair of sports glasses or things like that? I still might wear my Ray-Bans that are like the bird bone ones. They're even lighter than this. But these, yeah, I could definitely see gravitating to them. Now, you know what's going to happen if it's Henry Cavill or, quite frankly, any Bond. I'm hoping they go back to kind of the beach scene. I know that we had something in Jamaica where he's retired, but you never had the pool or the beach scene that is just so iconically Bond. Maybe even Bond beauties bathing in the sun. Oh, I was hoping I could do better alliteration than that. But here are some items from Oliver Brown that I think would be perfect. Again, we curated this thinking of what do we want in Bond 26. This is simple. This is a navy blue. It is a drawstring. It's got all the accoutrements associated with Oliver Brown. What I like about this is simplistic, just like this t-shirt. There's nothing too avant-garde about it, and it's in the Bond traditional blue that I think we've come to really appreciate over time. But here's something that's going to throw you for a loop. But I dig these, and I'm going to wear these quite a bit. British Racing Green. Yeah, Bond 26. Imagine Bond, a deference nod to the British Racing Green with even the racing stripes on the side. This to me just absolutely says Great Britain. In fact, this is the Setter GT tape. Color is racing green. And what I love about this is you've got the gold accents, you got the side tabs, Oliver Brown, a British brand in British racing green with the British stripes. I'm getting kind of a British feel here. I don't know about you, but wait. Let's say you hearkened back to a subtle nod of Goldfinger. Now, I don't want clobber over the head moments back to other Bond movies. I don't want Bond baddies to come back from the dead or anything like that. But this to me harkens back to the onesie, but in a modern way that I think would fit Henry Cavill perfectly. All right, check this out. So this is a pool terry cloth cardigan. Now, you know me and shawl cardigans. Me likey the shawl cardigans, you know that. This is a belted shawl cardigan. I'm going to step back for a second so you can see this. That you can wear either by the pool or out. Let me button this. Check this out. Now imagine Bond is at the pool, comes out with his racing green suit, puts it over himself, and goes and sits down with a Bond girl. But he's got to kind of look the part. He's got to dress it up. Bond's always looking great. Imagine wearing a toweling. Look at this. That's toweling, folks. One button undone and everything. It's still a sartorial tailored moment. You've got the pockets here. Got the Oliver Brown tag. That's how new this is. But check this out. This is a size medium, by the way. This feels so luxuriously comfortable. By the way, even goes with the chinos that I'm wearing right here. But look at this. This is what I'm talking about. These are these crazy Bond moments that they just look the part, but it's so tailored nicely. It even has, you're not going to put a handkerchief in there by the pool, but it has a pocket. So I could even see going to a relaxing summer party. It's summer when I'm filming this. And sure enough, wearing this, something very different, but also, I think, very Bond. And that whole belted aspect, which does look a little robe-like, but it's like the most comfortable, Oh, I love this thing. This is going to be hard to take off for the next piece we're going to talk about because it's so comfortable. It's so stylish. It's got a little bit of Steve McQueen, a little bit of Daniel Craig, and I think Henry Cavill could pull it off. Can I pull it off? I'm going to find out. Love this damn thing. All right. Bonus points if you know where this racket is from, which movie. Oh, wait a second. It's Octopussy. It's Octopussy. Yeah, very good. Screen accurate, not screen used, but felt appropriate for what I'm wearing here, which pair of white shorts from Oliver Brown. You can see here with the stripes on them. But the top is an end peel sweater. This is long-haired cashmere. It is so incredibly soft. And yes, it is something that you can wear all season long, but it is part of their new spring line. And what I thought would be perfect is talking about Bond 26 and getting back to Bond being a sporting Bond. Remember when he played golf and Goldfinger and he plays other sports and he rides a horse, for example, in A View to a Kill? Yeah, let's get back to Bond doing sports. So why not tennis? He hasn't done tennis. And I think, again, using the actor that I picked in the beginning, calm yourselves, Henry Cavill, I think he could get away perfectly with this. This item right here is so well tailored. I want to show some of the details because End Peel, you know this already, is a Bond brand. It already is. But for me, it's not just the British essence. It's not even just the fact that they did an amazing job on this. I mean, look at the way it fits and connects. It's got that kind of Bond fit where it fits you in a military sense, but it's not like shrink wrapped on. What I love about this is the traditional aspect. It's got some of the traditional navy colors of a tennis sweater, and they designed it off of one in bygone ages. So again, it's got the historical, traditional essence, but back to basic. I want to see Bond playing tennis. And by the way, I would get major points with my wife because she loves tennis, and I love this tennis top. But let's stick with the casual Bond essence, but also stick with End Peel for this next one. Okay, also from their spring line, you've got this beautiful shirt. It is incredibly comfortable. This is a size small. Just as a reminder, I'm a 31 right here. Finally was able to whittle down. Had gained a little bit, but hashtag Bond Fitness Challenge. It's a different video, but this is a size small, fits me really well. I love it. It's loose enough, but it also fits nicely up here, size 40, 41 now, and it's buttoned down. Look at this. Let me get nice and close so you can see the fabric. It's a button down, so this has got a little bit more tailored look to it. I could see in Bond 26 a cafe, right? He's going to meet somebody that he's got to get a little bit of intrigue and spiness to it. I could see him trying to blend in with a pair of the sunglasses, right? And wearing this outfit. It's casual, it's cool. Maybe it's Italy. We've done Italy a lot, but maybe it's some other European country, Prague, who knows? And he's wearing this outfit. He's got a pair of relaxed chinos on. He's got his Omega watch. This outfit screams Bond. I know. If we saw Bond 26 and he was wearing this shirt, all of us in the Bond community would scurry around like, which brand is it? Who's got that? That's in the spring line of End Peel now. But for Bond 26, I think this would be an amazing curated piece. It's got the nice high biceps that I know good old Henry could show off with no issue. But it also has something that could transition, and this is the greedy part of me, transition to our world. Yeah, the non-Bond humans. But I'm avoiding something because what you're hopefully saying is, David, we've got a craving and a hankering for Bond 26 to be spy Bond, sneaky Bond, if you will. We love those mission moments. So what about on his mission? I got you on that. I got you. Okay, so I'm wearing an End Peel top. Wait for it. It is 70% cashmere, but 30% silk, which makes it incredibly, look at that, incredibly lightweight and soft, but also very durable. It's got a banded bottom right here. It's got the banding on the sleeves. And this is my favorite part because, of course, it is. This navy top has a zipper, right? That to me screams of a couple things. First of all, it screams little Moonraker, little Roger Moore, little throwback, little 1960s, 1970s. I love that because it's not, again, a sledgehammer of a Bond moment, but it's got that look and that feel and that small little homage back to a different time. I could even see our Bond and Bond 26 pairing this with navy trousers, pants, slacks, whatever you want to call them, in kind of a sneaky Bond moment. I'm getting Thunderball vibes, right? A little bit of Thunderball vibes when he's kind of sneaking around and things like that. He's got to wear something dark, but if he's discovered by somebody, he also can't look like he's wearing camo fatigues. So this to me says, I'm a playboy, I'm Bond, I can sneak around, I can blend in, and yes, I'm still a bit of a fashion and style plate. Super comfortable, super connected. I'm doing that so you could see that it's sleek because Bond really wants to show off that he doesn't just work out when he has to. He's a disciplined individual. This thing shows that off. No worries whatsoever. Now, still keeping with Bond on a mission, and something I'm going to take unapologetically from Daniel Craig's reign, his arc, if you will, are the Henleys. I really started to gravitate to them in No Time to Die. It's the world of Henleys in No Time to Die. And I don't think they should go away entirely. Maybe I'll snap this one just to be a little bit more humble. I don't know. Just let it open. But this one is from Anderson and Shepard. It is cotton. It's incredibly soft. This one is in a navy. I'm keeping with the navy mission sneaky Bond look. It's got a banded bottom. But again, this is another luxury style Bond brand that I think could be easily transitioned into Bond 26. And though Henleys certainly seem indelible, seem a mark of No Time to Die, I think on a new actor, a new physique, I think it's going to bring something very different to the table. Again, it could be the casual Bond, but this could be also a little bit more of a military look, depending on what you tie this with. Now, with me and these Anderson Shepard tops, I think depending on the color and the look, you could dress them up, you could dress them down. It's not an undershirt. I think Henleys have become part of the de rigueur of our fashion and style. Don't believe me? Check out this other color. Different color, same exact Henley, and it gives off a very different look. Now this Henley itself is a size small. Again, I gave you my measurements already, but you can see it doesn't look like it's painted on. Super comfortable. I could wear this, especially with this color. I could wear this with jeans. I could wear it, as you can see, with chinos. I could roll the sleeves up. It's got a very kind of casual look, but it still looks, it's going to come across as wrong, beastie, in the sense that Bond should be a bit of a beast. He should look like he could run through the camera or run through you or run through a wall. And I think what Daniel Craig brought to the table in all of his Bond movies of being that tough exterior, gritty Bond is not going to be discontinued in Bond 26. Now, he will enjoy life. He'll have a pithy sense of humor, sardonic, sarcastic, one-liners, all the fun things. This is my wish list. Can you tell? Check, 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 check. But I think that in looking like he's a dangerous character that can do the job and do the job well, why would that stop? So his clothes, I think, could reflect that very nicely. Now, right about now, you should be saying arched eyebrow. Come on, David, do it right. There you go. Oh, look, years of practice. This is great. These are some amazing clothes by a lot of cool brands. And I could definitely see in Bond 26 these coming to life. At least that's what I hope you're saying. But where are the suits, David? Where are the suits? Well, let me jump in to the whole discussion of the suits right now. All right, and just with the magic of Hollywood, we are joined by Timothy Everest, tailor and fashion designer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on, and a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I know we've gone back and forth a little bit. It's our first time actually virtually meeting. And I told you the premise of this video that you're now a part of, where from a speculative standpoint, dressing Bond for Bond 26, and it's particularly in suiting. And I love the fact that you've dressed, oh my gosh, Tom Cruise for Mission Impossible, obviously Henry Cavill for The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Any ideas that you would have right off the bat?
Well, clothes-wise,
Yes.
or personality who's going to maybe play Bond is an interesting one. I mean, in the last film, I guess they left the door open. It could be male, female, it could be all sorts of different people. But let's say that it is going to be a man, which I think it probably would be. I think a suit is a very important part of the wardrobe. So a cornerstone of any British gentleman, particularly someone like Bond, I think would be some kind of suit. And I think the thing that's happening in the marketplace at the moment, I think we have to understand when we're dressing. I mean, if you go back through the franchise over the years, they acknowledge the period they're in, whether it's Sean Connery in the 60s, whether it's Roger Moore, 70s, you know, the style has to kind of be in sync with that period of time. What we're seeing at the moment is a return to relaxed and sort of casual elegance, with the reset in the wardrobe of being people who know how to wear formal casual, and then they're now doing Zoom calls, or what we're doing here, StreamYard and Netflix to the pub. There's a big reset that's set where people have got used to being very comfortable. I was apologizing before we went online. I do actually have a jacket here, which I should put on to show our wares. I'm wearing a very nice Smedley polo. But it's that casualness that's starting to come through. So probably we would look at proportion and actually start to look at, depending on the physique of the chosen Bond, something's a little bit more relaxed, a little bit softer, a little bit easier. We've been looking back sort of 30 years ago to sort of early films like American Gigolo and that sort of thing. And it's a case of maybe the trouser being higher on the waist, tucked in, maybe rolling up a sleeve, an open neck shirt, but maybe a softer construction. So not literally doing that sort of Armani deconstructed matinee idol, but just really having a flavor of how people are starting to dress. The other thing is, people do want to dress up again. So they're more likely to have a suit made not to go to work, but to maybe go next door to the Chiltern Firehouse, because they want to celebrate different times of the day. So again, it would be really good to explore that through Bond. When does he wear the suit? You know, is it a form of, how do we make him look casual but still elegant? And I think some of the early Bond films did that very nicely, particularly when they were in Florida and lovely sort of locations like the Bahamas.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of a, you gave us so much, but it's a bit of an unfair question, because you're right. I mean, as a designer, you would have to know, you know, who the actor is. So for this video, for all the different picks and choices, I just chose Henry Cavill. I like him. I think it would be a great Bond. You've dressed the man before, and you know, I said everybody says, oh, he's too big, you know, Superman size, but he can thin down and has. From The Man from U.N.C.L.E., was he the huge Henry Cavill, or was he
No.
slightly slimmed down?
It was quite remarkable, because he was coming off playing Superman, where he's bugged out, and we weren't able to see him because of his schedule. But his wardrobe spoke to his trainer, who gave them detailed measurements of his biceps, of his pecs, his backs, whatever, and they padded out a mannequin to the shape that this trainer was going to get him to over 6 weeks, which is losing a lot of muscle mass. And I'm not joking, almost to the millimeter, his body was the same as the mannequin. This guy's incredible. He did the 300 and whatever. No secrets to, it was a pretty tough regime, a lot of exercise, high protein diet, and a lot of sleep was the big thing. And poor old Henry was desperate to eat a little bit more. He was off to, I think, Japan on some press junket. He said, great, loads of sushi. And his trainer turned around and said, yes, one piece.
Oh my gosh.
So he's interesting. So we made the suits in the line with wardrobe and what Guy Ritchie wanted, which were much more structured and a little bit late 60s. Knowing him, he was uncomfortable wearing that, because that's not what he would like to wear, but he understood that's what the character and we were briefed to do. He quite likes Chiffonelli, which is a French brand, which is slightly softer. So I think if you want to help his character, if it was him, then I would definitely try and make something that's a little bit softer, but still very structured for him. I think that's important. When we were doing Ralph Fiennes, it was trying to get the right kind of M, because he was replacing obviously Judi Dench. Who was his M? So the double-breasted suit that we did for that final scene was a very key point. When we got to the next couple of movies, we actually based him on a friend who's just retired from one of the banks, who's has to be formal, but he's quite casual, and still wears a suit a new way. So we just evolved him slowly. It was interesting with him, they didn't see him wearing separates or casual. He would always wear a suit, or in the last film, he was dressing like a lot of politicians, open neck shirt, rolled up sleeve, which seems to be a kind of a smart casual sort of look if you're in that sort of world. But yeah, I think it's important you develop some of this that A, suits the character. He feels that enhances his personality and his performance. And secondly, from my point of view, it's something that has to acknowledge what's going on now. We don't want to be too dated, but it has to be relevant. And again, the third and last point, we are tailors, we're bespoke tailors, so we really have to show off, the best of what we do, which is British bespoke tailoring.
And that's one of the reasons why I chose Timothy Everest, quite frankly, to go back to that British essence of it, because not that I dislike the suits from the Daniel Craig era, and I know it wanes between two different brands, but one of the things that I thought was that Timothy Everest, the essence of it, the bespoke aspect, could flatter the body without having to be suctioned to the body. It doesn't need to be like, rippling and puckering up. It can move with that. And I think with Bond, the best Connery suits, for example, kind of move with the character. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, if you actually look at, say, Goldfinger, my memory when I'd watched those films, sort of the reruns as a kid, I remember them as being really quite slim suits. Michael Caine in The Italian Job, when he comes out the corridor for seeing all those young ladies as a treat from getting out of prison, his suit is really quite tight. You can see him trying to almost put his arms by his thighs, but it's very tight. If you look at Goldfinger, that a good Savile Row suit's never skinny. It's always a little bit easier. It's got the London drape. It's a little bit longer. So he was very, very elegant and quite very slim fitting compared to, say, 50s and 40s before, but it wasn't a skinny suit. It was just very, very elegant. And someone like both Daniel and Henry have great physiques, so you've got to work around. The problem is with someone like Daniel, the temptation is to put him in something very small, and then it looks like he's bursting out of it. So you've got to really work on the construction to still make him look slim and elegant, but also very comfortable. Someone like Henry has got very big arms, but his hands are slightly, you probably hate me saying this, and wrists are slightly normal in relation to the rest. So you'd have to be very sensitive to the taper of the bottom of the sleeve, for example. So you could give him the room through here, but still give him an elegant sleeve. Normally, when people are making things, they take the bigger measurements, and you end up with a bulky sleeve, for example. Yeah. And then silly little things you can play around, because a lot going on in the chest, lower the natural waist maybe, raise the trousers to make the legs look longer. There's lots of little things you can do. So, but I do think British is very, very important, and
I do as well.
Yeah, that's why I was very flattered when one of the tailors on Savile Row very kindly said a good example of a good modern British Savile Row suit was what Ralph Fiennes was wearing. I don't think they knew it was us, because they probably wouldn't have said that, but I'm but I was very flattered, because it's one of our sort of peers that is a very, very well established business. So that was a huge compliment.
That's fantastic and well deserved, by the way. One of the things I've got to ask, as you said, the more casual aspect, there are some things that I would imagine in the past, Bond has worn blazers, for example, or double-breasted. And, do we even go seersucker, as relaxed as that? But is there anything that Bond can't or shouldn't wear?
Oh, what shouldn't he wear? I don't know. I think, yeah, I have to think about that, because he's worn so many things. I mean, even the Terry toweling sort of one-piece thing that Sean Connery wore, I mean, that was very camp, but he pulled it off. It still looked quite good. I guess Bond can pull off most things. I think certain leathers you'd have to be very careful with. I've looked back at, I think Piers Brosnan wore some suede things, pieces. I was not sure about that. I think the casual wear could be very interesting. Again, I would do it when we get to do these gigs. We tend to do a lot of a deep dive into movies and other films and historic stuff. So I love the scene in Thomas Crown Affair where Steve McQueen comes out and he's being watched by a detective, and he's wearing a great sort of Harrington, which I think was Pat Harrington in Peyton Place. It's the classic Barracuda. But some of those shapes are more casual pieces. Again, with a raglan shoulder would be really good on someone like Henry. And I think could also go back to some of the sort of chino looks and things that were slightly from the Top Gun kind of era and stuff. What we would do is kind of create a wardrobe that was casual that kind of would really work. So I'm just stating the obvious thing. Yeah, certain hats I don't think would work on him. I don't think Bond is a baseball cap sort of guy, really. I don't think Bond would really look good in a particularly trendy sneaker. There are certain sort of canvas shoes you can wear, but it would be really fun to explore the modern casual side, working from the suit. You mentioned double-breasted. I mean, it's very popular again at the moment. That could be very nice, but again, I would do that in a slightly lower fastening, softer construction, still quite neat, maybe probably ventless, and a tapered trouser with maybe a single pleat could look really, really cool. That could be worn very casually as well. But that would be, the same thing. We would offer those things up. We'd try them. If the character, the new Bond, like them, wardrobe like them, then we can mine that and develop those looks more.
I love that. Well, something happened yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but maybe you did. Barbara Broccoli had given an interview where she essentially said they have nobody that they've chosen, that they're going to be thinking about it because they want to reinvent Bond and the franchise. And so it's going to be a minimum of 2 years until they start filming, which means we won't get a Bond film until 2025 or 2026. So we've got a little bit, but that also, makes you a contender as far as dressing Bond.
Yeah, well, I hope so. They have to change the franchise because, unfortunately, what Bond has stood for doesn't really fit, the world that we're in at the moment. So that has to be done. But then that's the challenge. That's why I say you do need to push it. But I think even if you do reinvent the character, you still have to have some touch points from the past. I mean, I think a modern wardrobe is referencing the past, looking to the future to be in the present. So quite often this is an old Smedley I'm wearing with a new bespoke suit. So I quite often will take something I've already got to mix with something that's new, and then I'll evolve things. And then some things I pension off and then I revisit them and then remodel them. So I think you can't just go and do a completely new look. There has to be some references, even if they're quite subtle. And one of them could be simply having a British bespoke suit,
Yeah. They call it a modernization of nostalgia, having those nostalgic tropes that connect you back to the character, but obviously modernize it so it's not a throwback and not a point in time.
But isn't it interesting? A lot of the things that people want to watch, and Downton Abbey, for example, which 30 years ago would I be thinking we'd be watching a period costume drama or whatever? But people like the security of that, and again, the success of things like the Bond franchise. When they set out to do that, did they think they would be doing 26, 27 movies? That's interesting. Also, I just referenced a thing like a Harrington. So when that was designed, I don't know, maybe in the late 50s, early 60s, I envisage going to Japan and seeing beams plus doing derivatives of that 60 years later? No, because everything was in the pursuit of newness. The other thing, I was cycling down Hyde Park and I could hear the Rolling Stones playing. They were supposed to be dead by the time they were 30. I mean, Mick would say that, but that's the interesting thing. So there is a relevance to nostalgia. That's an interesting point with someone like him. He doesn't live in the past. He lives in the present. So he doesn't really want to be. He was doing something for the Grammys that we did, and he was singing a 60s Motown song. So the outfit was a nod to that. But he said, this is 20, whenever it was, 2016 or whatever it was. This is not 1966. And I think that's how I think you have to approach these things. So you have to understand the past. You have to understand the correct way to do things. Like a chef, a good chef can make great mashed potato and a
Yeah.
great omelette, but can probably make sensational food. Some people can make really crazy food but can't make mashed potato. So you've got to understand the basics to actually then push the boundaries. So in a roundabout long-winded answer, that's probably where we would come from. You have to touch the past to basically be in the present.
I love how you can marry those themes and then connect it to the wardrobe. But
Mm.
Timothy, I appreciate the quick touch base. I would love to do a longer conversation in the future with you on this,
So would
but
I.
yeah, I appreciate this conversation today. Okay, last but certainly not least, one of the things that I truly want to see in Bond 26, and it has to do with more of what Bond carries in his accessories more than what he wears. But it's still really important because, like you, I want to see more Bond lifestyle moments. I want to see him carrying certain things and living his life, but having them as tools and accessories of his trade. So, we have a couple things. And I haven't opened them yet. I've been saving it for this discussion. Now, I did talk about the Bond watch and the brand that I want, but here's a great brand that I've talked about before. They were introduced to us in No Time to Die, of course. The suitor that Paloma has that has Bond's tuxedo in it, Bennett and Winch, handmade in England. These are a great group of people, but I spoke to them about this video. And they're fans, right? They're fans of James Bond. So this was a lot of fun. But I said, what about something where Bond has to travel? And he's got multiple watches. He doesn't just have one. So Bennett Winch accessories are proudly designed in our studio in London and handcrafted in England. And this is signed by Robin Bennett and Robin Winch. Get it? The two Robins? So we know so much more about this brand. But let me show you what we have in here. And again, still in the wrapping. Yes, she didn't know that this, oh gosh, smells really good, which means fine leather. Here's what they sent that Bond has to use in Bond 26. A beautiful brown watch case. And you can see right here, it says handmade, Bennett Winch, handmade in London. And we're going to open this. And there it is. Look at the green inside. Is that Bond or what? First of all, you would put your watches here and here and here. There's plenty of room. It's a nice roll pack. This is really important because it's not just a way to travel with your watches. It's a way to protect them. So you put your watches in here, you roll it up. This is soft, incredibly soft. What is that, suede? I'm not sure. I'll find out. But it's super soft, and you just literally close these up and put this into your luggage, put it into your carry-on pack or bag that you have. Smell it every now and then while you're traveling because aromatherapy works, people. Makes us happy, and leather smell makes me happy, but it's beautiful. This is what Bond should be curating. Bond lives a life where he could be murdered for breakfast. So is he going to get something that is flimsy, that disappears, plastic? No. He's going to get something that's made, and usually by a fine British brand. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, I want Bond to kind of lean back to the British brands. This Bennett Winch does the trick. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to have the opportunity to actually test this out in the wild. So I can't wait for that. But wait. Sounds like I'm selling steak knives. But wait, there's more. If you act now. No, this is super cool. It's big. Yeah. It's a big box. We like big boxes. This box is big for a reason. I missed something in the Bond movies. And this is something that Bennett Winch and I worked together to really bring back. But I wanted to use their brand because I absolutely love their brand. And I think that this would be perfect for our new James Bond in Bond 26. Now, this is something to protect it when you're storing it. They have these wonderful, it's like a laundry bag, but it's much nicer. And inside is the cream filling. Now, inside is the magic. Please wait for it. I've got to open this properly. This is a big bag. You could put small people in here. I'm not cutting because I know you all like this. All right, here we go. It's an attaché case or a portfolio. Now, I've got to tell you, I was so excited to get in touch with them because I wanted to make sure that we talked about Bond getting back to being a spy, being intrigued. And I've got all around my collection, whether it's Samsonite or Zero Halberton or just tons of attaché cases and things that I use. This, I wanted to stick with a recent Bond brand. And I also wanted to make sure we used colors that were still kind of that Jamaican feel, right? You know, Bond being of the islands, the brown and the green. And I think this is the type of same colorway, same color structure that you saw in No Time to Die. So again, it's that deferential nod without being a smack over the sledgehammer head. But look at this piece. Again, the smell is gorgeous. You've got the canvas, you've got the leather. It's a very dark brown. You can see it in the light. Here we go right here. This is probably the explanation of it. Modern British classics, 100% cotton canvas, dyed in the UK and bonded for water resistance. That's good for Bond. He does have cars that go under the water, just FYI. Solid brass hardware and fittings welded in London. Premium full-grain vegetable tanned leather, military grade 100% cotton webbing, and the strongest YKK zips and fastenings obtainable. That's impressive. Hand cut and hand machined, like a bespoke suit. The material for each bag is hand cut in the factory. What? And constructed using traditional methods, our bags are machined by hand, a skill requiring years of experience in producing a different outcome for mass-produced computer-controlled machinery. And then there's some care for the bags, etc. This is gorgeous. First of all, look on the back. Little place for your passport and your information. I love these quick release zippers. Quick release zippers are fantastic. They're very handy. They're very useful. But the other thing that I like is this. And you're like, what is that, David? Is that? No. This is so when you have your other luggage, when you have your check-in luggage, which has the thing that pulls up. What are you, carrying handle, David? Do you not know the name for it? This goes down the carrying handle, and then your bag, your attaché stays right in your luggage, and you could pull it. So you're not like slipping down. That's not a very Bond thing to go through an airport and look like you are falling apart or carrying 1,000 bags. No, keep it really streamlined like this. Now this obviously has a strap that you can throw over your shoulder, but here are the two zips. They're nice and chunky. And we will give you a look inside because it's worth it. You've got places for your mouse, your earphones, more information and passport. This is the big area for your computer. What I love about this is, here's the strap I told you about. This is a nice empty well. I don't like too many things to obstruct the fact that I may be throwing things in here, bottles of water, or maybe not bottles of water. I don't want to get this thing wet, but a plastic bag with your snacks, your accoutrements, your travel kit, etc. Everything is held in here, but look how thin that is, right? It's not going to be a major piece of real estate because Bond, again, Bond shouldn't look like he's weighed down. He is a sleek weapon. He is efficient. And so his bag should be stylish, should be interesting, should be a part of who he is, but it should be sleek and efficient. And by hey, I know, I'm interrupting my own video. This is crazy. You know what? This is bothering me. Can we go to full screen? Better. Thank you. All right. So the reason I'm interrupting this video, this is kind of a Doctor Strange multiverse, going back in time, going forward in time type craziness moment. You see, this, what you're watching right now, this whole entire video was actually filmed about a month, maybe even a month and a half ago. Yeah, that long ago. And now we fast forwarded, and I just teased out that I was going to test drive, use in the wild, these pieces from Bennett and Winch. And I actually have. Yeah, I've used the pieces. And a couple of things have happened in a month and a half since I've done this video about Bond 26. First of all, I don't know, just a little thing like Barbara Broccoli coming out and saying that it's going to be at least 2 years until they start filming, not until a new film, but till they start filming, and that they haven't even looked at Bond potential actors. Okay, that may stick a hole in my theory about Henry Cavill, but I'm ever hopeful, ever vigilant that it's going to be Henry Cavill. Yeah, even with this expansive time that we could potentially have. But in addition to that, I've done shrublands type reboot of my fitness, lost a little weight, put on a little bit of muscle, everything's good like that. But something else big happened. We had this Bond in the Bahamas, back to the Bahamas, 14th through the 17th of June, we had this event, and I was honored to be a part of the event. I emceed some of it, as well as did a lot of copious videos, and even interviewed Bond girls, celebrities. It was a blast. But what does that have to do with this video? I did a test drive of this bad puppy right here. So this is, of course, the watch roll. Stuck it into my luggage just like this. Fits really, really well. It fit perfectly amongst my clothes. It was well packed. But more importantly, this is what I wanted to show you. Okay? A beautiful velvet and everything like that. Well, wait a minute. Come on, people. I know what you like. I know what you like. And you like that. So these are the 3 watches I brought with me that I wore. These were different items that I wore depending on the outfit that I was wearing. I also brought this. So I wore the Quantum of Solace on my wrist on the plane, and these 3 were packed in my carry-on, right? So this fit nicely into my carry-on. And these were the 3 watches that I brought, all nestled in here. But I found out a little bit of Q gadget moments. I mean, yes, this is beautiful, it's luxurious. What a beautiful way to pack your watches. But in addition to that, hold on, wait for it. Oh, you can take this whole thing out and, of course, remove your watches like this. That's one way to do it, take off your watches. But here's what I also found out. In case you just want to slip them on, these come off. Yeah, this is a bit of a transformer of a watch holder. So you can have all types of configuration. Because at first I thought, oh, these things are permanently on here. I've got to put just straps in the middle and then bracelets on the end. No, you can take the whole thing off. You can actually, and I did it, you can configure 4 watches. And these are good chunky watches. You know, there's the Casino Royale one right there. So this was a fantastic way to travel with my watches. The other thing I want to mention about this watch roll, though, that I think is very important, nostalgia. And we talk about nostalgia as a way to connect to James Bond, as a marketing engine. But one of the other things of nostalgia is this old world charm. You know, this things that sometimes the old ways are best. And if that's not James Bond, I don't know what is, as a character and as a franchise. So packing your watches in this beautiful piece of luxury, almost like its own luggage, is a way to really connect with the nostalgia of doing these things in an old world way. Look, this watch roll by Bennett Winch, it's made in an old world way. They designed it in an old world way. It's luxurious and has that high value proposition in an old world way. So why wouldn't you get that feeling when you actually use it? Now, that might be enough, but we also test drove during this time, and not in the Bahamas, but in my everyday life. I think many of you know that I'm a corporate executive. I'm a president of a pharmaceutical advertising and marketing agency. So, like Bond and we highlighted, I used the attaché. Yes, I did. And this is it after several uses. More than just going to board meetings, I have to go in to my office 2 to 3 times a week, usually 3 times a week. And I use this, first of all, very lightweight in and of itself, very handsome, very rugged, very Bond. All right, so we got to go over the aesthetics. And I felt that way every time I put it into my car, revved the engine, pulled this out of the trunk. It was phenomenal. But it's the way you pack these things that I think is thoughtful. And everything has its place, right? I'm an organized soul like yourself. So take a look at the inside here. This has its space for the pen. Of course, it's a Bond pen. My wallet over there. It's got my mouse. Yes, I still use a mouse. And of course, it's got some extra pens. And in the wider well, it has my computer, which plenty of room for my computer, and then this giant well for other assorted goodies, my everyday kit and things that I need to kind of freshen myself up during the day. But more importantly, this piece has become a part of kind of who I am. I mean, yes, we curated it for this video, Bond 26. We thought it had that connection and No Time to Die, but still the old world charm. But now I feel like this has become a part of me. It's a part of my everyday accessory, look, feel, and connection. And that just brings it to a new level. Okay, so there you have it. The most speculative forecasting of style and items, and it is literally one person's wish. Just me. That's it. So a lot of these things aren't going to come to fruition, but I think if I had my druthers, if we kept Bond a traditionally style basic template that we know and love, and yet still connect to Bond brands and even a few extra incremental ones, I think this could fit the bill. I don't know. Do I use this video for a resume and send it to Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson? Will they delete it immediately? Maybe. But maybe I will send it in. Maybe I'll show it to some of the other costume designers and ask them what they think. Maybe. These are all maybes, and so is this video. But I hope you enjoyed it. What's your speculation? Go into the comments below. You are not a shy group. Tell me the different brands that you would like to see in Bond 26. They could be wacky, they could be out there, but I will read every single one. I want to take a look, and this is probably not going to be our last one around Bond 26. Maybe I'll invite some friends to do it, but these are fun. And guess what? I don't know if you know, but we've got nothing but time before Bond 26 comes out, and we find out the actual brands that are in the movie, the actual styles, and we'll actually find out then. In the meantime, this has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience, and we will see you all real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.